Hi, I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Good morning and welcome to the challenge. As always, first and foremost, we want to thank God for another opportunity and thank you, the viewers, for tuning in. In our current events, the Ferguson debacle and the Eric Garner situation that exists in New York, Michael Brown in Ferguson, Eric Garner in New York. We are here this morning to talk about police conduct, if you will, and what happens in a city where the folks who are in charge of public safety, who have the responsibility to protect and serve, what their role should be, and why it is that they are having this conversation about race on a national level in today's discourse. So the challenge this morning has a very special guest, a young man who served on the police force in a capital city of Hartford, the capital city of Connecticut, Hartford. Young man who served for 8 years as a police officer in the trenches, a patrolman, young man who I've grown to know and respect, who can give us some insight and share with us some of the particulars on what happens in public safety, particularly in the police department, why it happens, and his perspective on why those situations happen in places like Ferguson, Missouri, and Staten Island, where Eric Garner was killed after wrestling with, or after being wrestled to the ground by 5 white police officers. Today's guest is William R. Smith. Good morning, Will. What's happening?
How you doing, sir? How you doing?
I'm doing great, brother. Good. I'm glad you could take the time to come and spend a few minutes with us. I know that this is a kind of a sensitive area for you, so we won't delve too deep. But we do want you to share with us, why your experience as a police officer, and what your perspective is on the things that's taking place now. Now, that being said, I can't help but think that police officers have an awesome responsibility, because without public safety, cities really don't exist. Right. The civility that people hope for in any kind of organized society comes from those people who actually are responsible for public safety. So we have obviously a lot of respect for police officers here. We have a lot of respect for the people who do that kind of work. We know it takes a certain person. So this is not, if you will, an attempt to trash or to dispel. We just want to talk about the facts. Right. We want to talk about the difference between what's right and what's wrong. Right. And for me, can't be any more straightforward than that. So with that being said, let's start at Ferguson, Missouri. Michael Brown, a young teenage man, happens to be 6'4", 6'5", I think was the profile that they gave. And, he's approached by a police officer. Now, this happens to be a white police officer who decides, according to some of the tapes in the documentary, to accost him in a way that just isn't courteous or just isn't, really becoming of any officer or an ambassador of a city. What's your take? Give us real life experience with the Michael Browns out there.
I can say from my personal experience dealing with especially young Black men in the community, I've watched that case very closely. I listened to Officer Darren Wilson's story, and to me personally, just doesn't add up.
Okay.
With the evidence and everything, it just doesn't add up. Now, we can take it beyond Darren Wilson and say, well, did the prosecution office do what they were supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
Because the lead prosecutor on that case, his father was a police officer who was killed in the line of duty by a Black man.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
so there were a lot of people that signed petitions saying he should be removed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And throughout that case, it was discovered that.
Now, Will, you're an 8-year veteran now, so I want to make sure that the people who listen to the show don't feel as if, you've got some kind of other agenda, but you're looking at this really objectively.
Yes, sir.
And so this is a, big picture view that you're giving, from the information and the evidence that all of us see. So you're saying that it doesn't add up.
Doesn't add up. And from the evidence, the prosecutor gave the grand jury outdated laws, and now even that's being investigated. To say, if Officer Darren Wilson did everything he was supposed to do by the book, then why are you guys doing these behind the scenes backdoor shenanigans? Police officers are given pepper spray, batons, tasers. Now, I understand Darren Wilson didn't have a taser, according to him. I've been in scuffles, I've been in fights, the whole nine. At no time did I ever feel that I have to directly go straight for my firearm to neutralize a quote unquote criminal or suspect. And my thing is, if you can't handle yourself in a one-on-one fight, you probably shouldn't be a police officer, especially if it's a 17 or 18-year-old, unless this kid is like a trained martial artist or something. I mean, and then as many times as he was shot, it was like, how many times do you need to shoot somebody? But even when Darren Wilson did his interview, he referred to Mike Brown as a demon. So now you have to ask yourself, what's this really about? How do you feel about the community that you're policing? Is this your mindset? Is this your attitude? I mean, granted, we know there's some people in the community that cause ruckus or do crazy stuff, but police officers are supposed to protect and serve the community. They're not supposed to be judge, jury, and execution. Mike Brown isn't around to tell his side of the story. He'll never be able to tell his side of the story. And the people in Ferguson, I do not agree with the looting and the rioting. That's wrong. You're destroying your own community. You're destroying your own businesses. That makes absolutely no sense. But I do understand the anger. You have a community that's about 75% African-American, a police department with 53 officers and only 3 of them are African-American. That makes absolutely no sense. And then when you look at their city council, it consists of 7 members, but only 1 of them is African-American. And even the mayor himself is a white man.
So you're saying definitely the makeup of the police department has everything to do with the community that is policing.
Listen, everybody wants to dance around the race topic. Nobody wants to discuss, as they say, the big elephant sitting in the room.
Right.
Nobody wants to talk about it. They want to dance around it.
Right.
This country was built on racism, entrenched in racism. The community, the police department should reflect the community. At the end of the day, for the most part, people are going to treat people that look like them differently. And they're going to treat people that look different than them differently. That's just the way it is.
You just, yeah. That's
whether you agree with it or not. That's
just a fact.
That's just the fact.
Yeah, because there's no fear we have amongst ourselves. Even if he's 6'5" or if he's 7 feet.
Listen, I've been in situations where I could be arguing with a guy like he's 6'5", 300 pounds. I'm not intimidated.
Right.
I'm a black man talking to another black man. I know he's venting. I know he's pissed off.
Right.
Caught his girlfriend fooling around or whatever.
Right.
But he's angry.
Right.
I'm gonna let him vent. I'm not intimidated.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a culture.
Yeah.
And people, a lot of times, people don't understand. You got guys coming from the suburbs that grew up in the suburbs,
right,
and are getting powerful positions in the inner city. You're getting a gun and a badge.
Right.
If you never grew up in the city, or if you don't know people from the city, then how do you know how to deal with that?
Yeah.
Because let's just say it for what it is. You don't see black police officers shooting and killing unarmed white citizens.
No, you don't.
You don't hear about it. You don't see it.
Now,
is that to say because black police officers are smarter? Is that to say that they're more highly trained? Is that to say that they're more religious or more spiritual? No. Black police officers have enough sense to know white America wouldn't go for that. Bottom line.
It'd be considered a crime.
Exactly. And what really pisses me off is when people say, oh, well, look at the black on black crime in the inner cities. Well, when black people kill other black people, they go to jail. When black people commit crimes, period, they go to jail.
Right.
So please, let's not try and mix one thing with the other.
Right.
A police officer is supposed to serve and protect and is held to a higher standard and is supposed to do things by the law.
Right.
Even the other case with the 12-year-old boy in Cleveland.
Right.
He's out there by himself,
gun,
playing with a gun in the park, by himself.
Right.
And the cop rolls up on him, doesn't even say anything, just starts shooting.
Well, they claim that he gave a few commands.
Guess what? A lot of people don't know is the officer was forced to resign from his previous department. They told him he was unfit to be a police officer.
Right.
So now here we are with him.
Yeah. So, and the same thing happens all over America. Other police officers who can't make the grade in other police departments come to other police departments and actually work.
You'd be shocked at how many police officers in the city of Hartford came from other departments.
Well, that's the other thing that worries me. It gives me cause for concern. The vast majority of police officers, it seems, who work in cities actually live somewhere other than the city itself.
Right. And my thing is this, because I grew up in the city of Hartford. When I was police officer for 8 years, I still lived in the city of Hartford. My thing is this: you're going to conduct yourself a certain way and behave a certain way if you live in the same city with the people you have to patrol.
Right.
That's the bottom line. See, it's a different story when you come to the city to police and then you get to run back to the suburbs once your shift is over.
Right.
And for whatever reason, they can't make it a stipulation or a rule or saying, like the fire department, you have to live in the city of Hartford to be a firefighter.
Right.
Because I mean, let's just be honest here. Take a town like Avon. A suburb,
an affluent suburb. Okay.
Let's say they automatically started hiring a whole bunch of black people as police officers. Somebody in the town is going to say, hold up, wait a minute. What's going on here?
Why are our tax dollars being spent this way?
Exactly. Why are the police officers in this town not looking like the people that live in this town? And you can rest assured something would be done about that. And to me, it seems like they want to put this stipulation out there that city residents are either not qualified to do the job or they're not worthy to do the job. It's almost like our city has to be patrolled by people who don't look like us. Those are the most quote unquote qualified to do the job, which is sickening.
We have to take a break right here. Our time has gone by really quickly in this first part of, but we're going to come back. And we want to talk about the origin of this stuff, where this stuff actually starts from. And then we'll talk a little bit more about Eric Garner, who what is the incident that happened in New York. We'll be right back.
These are the monsters of the road. Ever drive alongside a tractor trailer in the rain? Scary. You're hoping they don't change lanes. Now they see you, now they don't. This monster can crush you in an instant. They may be insured for millions, but you're not thinking of that in a dangerous situation. I'm attorney Jeffrey Dressler. Have an accident, you know what to do, because this is what we do. 24/7, 11/22.
Diamond Ruff is a brilliant 28-year-old con man with swag, whose childhood was robbed by violence and prejudice. With a passion for the arts, Diamond plans the crime of a lifetime. Diamond's well-crafted plan ends in tragedy and in his imprisonment. Is this the end for Diamond? Does a modern-day Martin Luther King Jr. hold the key to Diamond's overcoming life's challenges and his greatest enemy, himself?
I'm attorney Jeffrey Dressler. No matter how well you prepare, accidents happen. When they do, call me. 24/7, 11/22.
We're talking with William Rab Smith on The Challenge this morning. This is a program where we like to talk about solutions to problems. And frankly, we know that there's a problem of racism, if you will, within the ranks of the police and fire departments in the cities, particularly in the urban areas, and the makeup of those police departments seem to be one of the reasons why there seems to be this perpetuation of crime, and there seems to be these cultures clashing, if you will, because one culture knows nothing about the other. And it sounds like to me that they're taking a lot for granted, and they're misreading a lot of the situations that they're confronted with, and they're making unforgivable mistakes almost.
Yes, sir.
Eric Garner, the gentleman who was taken down by 5 police officers in Staten Island in New York. I can't help but wonder, when do you decide that you got to take down a guy like that, who you insist, I guess, is evading arrest or whatever the case. When is that decision made, and why do you got to have, talk to me about that. When did that happen? I know you, in your 8-year career, it's gone down a few times, I'm sure.
Let me elaborate on that. I watched that video probably 20 times, and there was one thing in that video that stuck out to me. At no time did any of those police officers ever tell Mr. Gardner he was under arrest.
Wow.
At no time did they ever tell that I recall or I heard any of those police officers ever tell him, Eric Garner, you are under arrest. Now, with that being said, because a lot of people don't know the law.
Right.
If a police officer is not placing you under arrest, you don't have to talk. You don't have to say. You have the right to remain silent.
Right.
You have a right to an attorney.
Right.
You could just stand there and say, I've got nothing to say to you guys. Am I free to leave? No. Well, am I being placed under arrest? Not as of yet. Then what's going on? We're detaining you for an investigation. Okay, well, y'all want to do your investigation? Y'all go ahead, but I have nothing else to say to y'all. So now the police have to make a choice. Are we going to arrest this person or are we going to let him go?
Right, right.
I never heard any of those officers tell him he was under arrest.
I missed that. But now that
go back and watch it again.
Yeah, now that you say that,
I'm trying to figure out what in the world was the grand jury looking at? What type of evidence were they looking at?
They
what
said
were they
he was
listening to?
evading arrest. They said he was.
How are you evading arrest if nobody ever told you were under arrest?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And as far as the chokehold, yes, it's not illegal in New York,
right?
But it's against policy for the New York Police Department. So either way, he violated the department policy.
Right.
Now, just because something's not a law, I mean, common sense to tell you that doesn't mean should be. It's right.
It's right. And that was my thing. I mean, listen, we're talking about what's right and what's wrong. I mean, come on. I mean, at what point, you know, I mean, and the other thing that struck me, if you will, is that they're all white. So it would seem to me that you would need, I mean, understanding the cultural differences.
From watching that video, they were itching to put their hands on that man, because let me tell you about personal experience I had working the nightclub downtown. People are drunk, coming out rowdy, crazy. I was partnered up with another police officer. We're sitting there. Guy comes out. He's completely intoxicated, muscular, drunk. It's a white guy.
Yeah.
Talking trash to everybody. So we're like, my partner's looking at me. He was like, well, we might have to fight this dude. I said, I'm not about to fight him. I told the guy, I said, sir, you need to calm down and you need to go home. He starts throwing F-bombs at me, F-bombs the whole nine. You know what I did? I pulled out my pepper spray and I sprayed him. And I stood back. And he just started going crazy, started throwing punches, I just sat there and just let him tire himself out. And when he finally tired himself out, that's when I got on him and I handcuffed him and I put him in the cruiser and we brought him to jail.
Right.
I mean, there's certain situations where you can diffuse a situation instead of escalating it.
Right.
And those officers, to me, it seemed like they were itching to put their hands on him and they escalated it.
Yeah.
Now, I'll give you another one. They said he was supposedly out there selling illegal cigarettes. That's what he was known for.
Right.
But guess what? He didn't have any cigarettes on him.
Nobody had any cigarettes.
So here you got a quote unquote suspect who doesn't have any evidence whatsoever of what y'all are out there for. So y'all didn't, what was y'all gonna arrest him? What was his charges gonna be?
No evidence. You didn't place him under arrest, but yet and still there was this need to corral him and bring him down.
And then the whole horse and pony. You want to know what really disgusted me about that video was the EMTs. The way that they conducted themselves, and they sitting there like just looking at him, and I'm like,
they didn't even try to
nothing.
Right.
Nothing. And then the most disgusting part at the end of that video is when that police officer that choked them out, he looks in the camera and starts waving and smiling. I'm like, are you serious? And there's a man. Watch the whole video in its entirety. This is why people are protesting in the streets, holding up signs saying Black Lives Matter.
Right.
Because it's an epidemic in this country. Young Black men are being killed all over the country.
One of the reasons why you chose the profession in the first place
to help and assist and diffuse stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, we even had cases in Hartford where children were killed by law enforcement officers and it didn't have to happen.
Right.
I'm like, these guys come from the suburbs to the inner city and want to be cowboys.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know damn well you wouldn't conduct yourself like that in a place like Avon or West Hartford or Bloomfield.
You got to be partnered up with some of these guys. You know, you've had a chance to partner up with guys, I'm sure, who were overzealous and
absolutely
rambunctious. What do you? I mean, in terms of your leadership, what do you say?
This is part of the problem that I saw. You got a lot of black police officers that don't want to, quote unquote, rock the boat or stir up any stuff.
Right.
So they just go along to get along.
Right.
They figure, okay, I got me a good job. I'm making me some good money. I'm not gonna ruffle any feathers, even if I'm seeing somebody being treated unjustly, which to me is disgusting. You got an organization like the Guardians in the Hartford Police Department that was started to protect black officers from racial discrimination and favoritism.
Right.
And it's like, what are you guys doing?
Right.
I mean, are you kidding me?
Right.
And I just feel that organizations like the Urban League or the NAACP or all these other organizations out there should be more involved to say, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Right.
Why are the black police officers being treated a certain way? Why are black people in the community being treated?
Well, you mentioned we talked a little bit earlier about the history. You shared.
Let me get into this because a lot of people don't want to. We can go back to slavery. We all know that African Americans were slaves in this country. A lot of people don't know that the Irish were also slaves, but they were referred to as indentured servants. In the late 1800s, they became honorary white folks. And they were given the police departments, the fire departments, because no other ethnic groups wanted that. So they were given that. So you have a lot of people that feel that they're entitled to certain positions. They're entitled to certain things. So when you got black police officers coming in and striving to be sergeants, lieutenants, captains, chiefs, some people look at it like, well, they're taking our positions. They're taking our power away. What little power that we have, which leads us to the cancer that's going on within the city right now.
Right.
A certain individual named Kevin Brookman with this blog, which airs out, for the most part, Hartford police officers and firefighters of certain ethnicities.
Yeah.
And
Kevin Brookman just happens to have a blog that some of the media is paying a particular attention to. And it appears as if Kevin Brookman has struck a nerve within the police department itself. I never read the blog, so I don't really know what he's saying, but apparently it's only directed towards black police officers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
For the most part, absolutely.
Okay.
And it's disgusting. It's appalling. And it's like he attacks certain people and they air out the dirty laundry of certain police officers and firefighters. And the morale is just so low. And people post. So
you think he's deliberately there to undermine and to sabotage all of the efforts that have been made to diversify and to give black police officers more authority within the police department?
Absolutely. Look at the comments. People will comment under anonymous and say city residents aren't qualified.
So those who feel this sense of entitlement are threatened by the fact that there are more black people, black men who are interested in becoming police officers, more minorities interested in becoming police officers, and therefore they want to stop, if you will, that progress from occurring.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. So that begs the question of leadership, which we've talked about a number of times on the challenge. People who are in leadership have to make tough decisions. And it would seem that how can they lead if they don't see stuff like that? I mean, and address it.
And that's part of the biggest problem, because nobody wants to address the issue, the real issue in the fabric and the
culture of the department.
Yeah. Nobody wants to sit down and discuss what the real
and that's public safety, period. So
absolutely.
So the question of race and the issue of racism is deeply embedded inside of the fabric of our society, and it plays out specifically in a local way within police departments, within public safety, and it can't help but spew out into the communities.
Right. And that's not to say that all so-called white folks or Irish folks think and act like that.
Right.
But there are people that a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that there is a such thing called white privilege or white denial.
Right.
Where I say that there's three types of people. You got racists, you got anti-racists, and you got non-racists. The non-racists just sit back and watch and observe. They don't get involved. Well, as far as I'm concerned, then you're useless or you're part of the problem, because if you're not going to help, you're just taking up space.
Right.
So you
can't ignore it anymore. You got to deal with it. You got to deal with it head on. You got when you see it and you recognize that you've got to address it.
Absolutely.
That's just the bottom line.
Absolutely.
I mean, if we're really talking about having a just and fair, and an impartial and objective, system, if you will, we've got to deal with this issue of race and racism in a way that rids at least the people who are in public position, rid our public system of its insidious nature.
Right. And it would be it's going to be a fight. That's a serious fight, because people don't want to let go of power.
Right. People
don't want to see somebody else, as they say, looking good or doing good.
Right.
That's where the term hater comes from. Because when Chief Dale Roberts became the chief, there's a lot of mad people out there.
Yeah.
Well,
one of the Hartford's homegrown talent becoming the chief of the capital city's police department is a major accomplishment.
Right.
So, but listen, we're going to have to continue this dialogue. We're going to have to continue to talk about it. We scratched the surface this morning, but I want to thank you, man, for coming in.
Thank you.
The challenge is real, and we have to, come up with solutions to problems, at least offer solutions to problems, whether they're being adhered to or embraced.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, William R. Smith, for your participation this morning, your contribution. This is The Challenge. Remember, be blessed.